What will you feel the first time Bitcoin hits a number that scares you? Not excites you, scares you. Will you feel conviction, or will you feel the sudden urge to cash out and run? Let's be realistic. Most of you watching this will not make it to 2030 with your Bitcoin stack intact. Not because you are stupid, not because the thesis fails, but because the system is engineered to test you at your weakest moments. The market is designed to separate you from your coins. Volatility is the price of admission, but psychological warfare is how institutions win. You are holding the hardest money ever created inside a system that can print value out of thin air. Here is the problem. Humans think linearly, but scarcity moves exponentially. You experience time in a straight line. Salary, bills, expenses, emergencies. But Bitcoin does not move in straight lines. It moves in supply shocks, in halvings, in sudden repricing events that permanently change the base level. Right now, you see Bitcoin as a trading asset. You check the price in dollars, you measure your stack against rent, groceries, vacations. But by 2030, you may not be pricing Bitcoin in dollars. You may be pricing your life in Satoshis, and that mental shift is everything. When we talk about 2030, let's use a conservative estimate of $1 million per coin. Some models suggest higher, but we'll stick to the baseline. At 1 million per coin, the decimal points move. The dust becomes diamonds. We are going to climb the ladder and break down 4 stack sizes: the survival stack, the new standard, the sovereign shield, and the global elite tier. This is not about getting rich quick. This is about not getting poor slowly. Before we even touch the numbers, understand this. The biggest threat to your stack is not a crash. It is comfort. It is lifestyle creep. It is the voice in your head that says, "I deserve this now." That voice has liquidated more Bitcoin than any bear market. Let's start with 0.001 Bitcoin. 100,000 Satoshis. Today it feels insignificant. It's a nice dinner, a pair of sneakers, a tank of gas. It's easy to look at that balance and feel discouraged. You think, why bother? I'm too late. That feeling is a trap. Fast forward to 2030. In a world where Bitcoin has absorbed monetary premium from gold and continues to eat into traditional markets, 0.001 Bitcoin is no longer dinner. It's a lifeline. If Bitcoin reaches $1 million, 0.001 equals $1,000. And that's $1,000 in future purchasing power, in a world where fiat has continued to decay. Holding 0.001 BTC could place you ahead of a massive portion of the global population that owns nothing. In times of capital controls, currency crises, or banking restrictions, 0.001 BTC can mean mobility, a plane ticket, a month of food, an option when others have none. This is insurance against total ruin. But here's where the flat tire comes in. Life is expensive. Your car breaks down. You need $500. You look at that 0.001 BTC and say, it's just dust, and you sell. That is not a trade. That is exchanging a fixed supply asset for a currency expanding toward infinity. And here's the brutal truth. Most people will fail at this first level, not because they lack intelligence, because they lack buffers, no fiat emergency fund, no margin for error. So every unexpected bill becomes a forced sale. If you want to survive to 2030, your first mission is not maximizing returns. It is building a structure around your Bitcoin so you are not forced to touch it. You must view 0.001 not as spending money, but as your absolute bottom line, the break glass reserve. If you can hold even this small amount until 2030, you guarantee you are not starting from zero. Now let's move to 0.01 Bitcoin, 1 million Satoshis. This is the psychological bridge. I call it the new standard. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Divide that by 100, and you get 2.1 billion units of 0.01 BTC. There are over 8 billion people on Earth, soon to be 9. There are not enough 0.01 units for everyone. Even with perfect distribution, only about 1 out of 4 people could own this amount, and distribution will never be perfect. Large holders, institutions, ETFs, and lost coins tighten supply further. Holding 0.01 Bitcoin likely places you in a small global minority. At a $1 million Bitcoin, 0.01 becomes $10,000. In a world of persistent inflation, that level of purchasing power represents stability. It is your emergency fund of the future. It is options money. But this is where ego enters. You scroll social media. You see screenshots of people with whole coins. You feel small. You feel behind. So you start optimizing. You add leverage. You chase altcoins. You try to accelerate the timeline. Greed disguises itself as strategy. Most people who start with 0.01 and try to trade to 0.1 end up with 0.001. Holding 0.01 for a decade requires humility. It requires accepting that you are not a trader, you are a saver. And in a world of infinite printing, saving in a scarce asset is a revolutionary act. Now we reach 0.1 Bitcoin, 10 million Satoshis. At today's prices, it might look like a used car, but scarcity compounds. At 1 million per coin, 0.1 equals $100,000. More importantly, it represents autonomy in a capital-starved world. 0.1 Bitcoin can be a house down payment, an education, 2 years of runway to leave a job you hate. It is freedom capital. But this is where the psychological battle becomes intense. Imagine Bitcoin hits 250,000 in 2026. Your 0.1 stack is worth $25,000. You can pay off debt, fix the roof, take a vacation. The temptation to sell will feel physical. Friends will tell you to take profits. Headlines will declare the bubble over. You will think you can sell and buy back lower. This is the trap. Once you sell 0.1 Bitcoin, the probability of ever owning 0.1 again drops dramatically. While you wait for dips, institutions accumulate. Supply moves into long-term storage. When coins leave retail hands, they rarely return. Holding 0.1 to 2030 requires a mindset shift. You are not holding a lottery ticket. You are holding a share of a finite monetary network. Selling it for depreciating fiat may feel safe in the moment, but it can cost you long-term sovereignty. Finally, 0.21 Bitcoin. This number is specific. It represents 1/millionth of total supply, 21 million coins. You hold 21 millionths of that? There are tens of millions of millionaires globally. There is not enough Bitcoin for each of them to own 0.21. If you hold this amount, you secure a position that many wealthy individuals will compete for. In a 2030 scenario, 0.21 BTC could represent generational capital, the type of asset you borrow against rather than sell, the type you protect and pass on. Reaching 0.21 requires sacrifice, delayed gratification, ignoring the noise of speculative altcoin promises. It requires patience, while volatility tests conviction. The market will try to shake you out, through crashes, through regulation headlines, through fear. If you have 0.1, aim for 0.21. If you have 0.01, aim for 0.1. Keep climbing while the window remains open. So I'll ask you again, when the next flat tire hits your life, will you reach for your future or will you protect it? 0.001 is survival. 0.01 is security. 0.1 is freedom. 0.21 is generational leverage. The only person you are competing with is your future self. Hold the line, stay humble, stack sats,